Welcome back, everybody, to the XCAA Selection Sunday show.
Yes,
It's broadcasted live on the GG9 network as we continue revealing the teams and the prospects. In this little March Madness, I'm joined by my co-host that you might have heard of a bit before, Real Teal Neil. How's it going, buddy?
It's going well. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be back and continue rolling with this, man. We're on day 3. This has been a blast so far. It's so much fun to see you guys interact with all of us. I encourage you all to follow. If you guys have Twitters, to go on XBA on GG9 and follow them so you guys can keep up with everything. But it's been a lot of fun so far, and this East region is no different. It's gonna be cool. Let's get into it.
And before we head into the East Division, I want the editor, which is Goldie, I want you to change my Amarillo PFP to a Tennessee PFP. Do it right now, and yeah, because I'm a big Tennessee fan, and you won't be surprised why at the end I might choose them to win. Anyways, let's head into the East region, where obviously my favorite team, Tennessee, and Wayne Cartwright are the #1 seed. We'll be talking about the matchups, which right now we see 8 versus 9. And okay, here we go, boys. Here we go. Washington versus Baylor. Can you tell us about Washington, one of my favorite teams actually in college?
Yeah, so Washington has been it's one of the late bloomer schools, I would say, probably in this tournament. The Pac-12 was loaded this year with teams like Oregon and USC and UCLA. So they weren't very standout throughout most of the regular season and even through most of conference play. However, they were able to kind of make a run in the conference tournament, highlighted by their stunning upset of USC and #1 prospect Jamal Turner in the conference tournament. To be fair, Turner was dealing with nagging hand injuries, and it seemed to affect his play a little bit as his sweet jumper was not falling during that game. But Washington is legit. They have a solid big 3 led by sophomore point guard Dio Kiowa, senior center Byron Lawrenson, and senior power forward Jeffrey Freeman. And they're an interesting trio because Kiowa kind of fits that Kyle Lowry type of mold where he can kind of shoot. He kind of runs the team.
Wait. Isn't he a shooter?
So he's a shooter. I don't know if I would quite give him the label of shooter. You know, that's that next level of shooting. You know, that's that top notch shooting. So he's a shooter, but maybe not quite a shooter. But good catch. But he's a very good point guard. He's very all around on the offensive end. His defensive game is solid, but he's more known for his offense. The senior center Byron Lorenzen is a kind of a stretch big to a certain degree. He can bang in the paint, but he can also shoot threes. So he's able to do a lot of pick and pop. And Jeffrey Freeman has been the standout. He's a senior power forward from them, like I mentioned before, and he was able to kind of really excel in that matchup against USC, sometimes getting matched up with Jamal Turner. He's somewhat of a defensive specialist. Even at the power forward position, he can guard multiple positions, and at times he was able to stifle Jamal Turner in that game, and they were able to win. And while they weren't able to win the entire Pac-12 tournament, it was enough to catch the attention of the committee, and they were able to make it in. And I think they're a good team, and they have a lot of momentum on their side. So we'll see what happens. But what about Baylor, Port?
Well, Baylor has, oh my god, how can I say it? They've got twin towers of like senior centers. Let me tell you about both of them. Earl Bettis and Ronald Rizzo. Now, what am I saying by twin? I'm not saying, they're 2 centers that, just play power forward. No, they're tall. Bettis is at 7'1" and Rizzo's at 7'2". I'm not gonna kid. They might be maybe a Cinderella team. I mean, we've seen some production issues, but we've definitely seen in the past with March Mayhem where big teams end up knocking out the you know, the small teams that are just hired are, you know, that are rated higher. So it'd be very interesting to, you know, see how these two play in March Mayhem. But I should tell about their run. Now, they had a miracle run in the Big 12. And I'm not saying they made it to the quarters or the semis. They made it to the conference championship final, I believe. They held a 54-40 lead at Oklahoma in the third quarter. And Oklahoma is rated very, very highly by everyone. They would end up losing, choking that game away, and Oklahoma won it. So the question is, yeah, we've seen they can upset some big teams. The question, you know, now, you know, is can they finish off the job? And we're not even that far ahead. Can they beat Washington? And so those are some of the questions about Baylor. Very interesting team coming into this tournament, and I can't wait to see these two teams play.
Yeah, it's going to be a great matchup. The 8 versus 9 matchup are always very competitive, right? I mean, it makes sense. They're the two closest seeds. But it's going to be interesting. I think the matchup down low between Freeman and Lorenzen and Bettis and Rizzo is going to be the difference. But Dio is going to be the X factor because he's going to be the true backcourt standout for either team. So if he's able to have a big game, maybe he'll be the one that makes a difference.
Well, it's time to move on to the next matchup. Okay.
Interesting. All right.
So Michigan versus St. Louis, number 4 Michigan versus number 13 St. Louis. How do you feel about this one, Neil? What is your thoughts on Michigan?
Yeah, so Port, man, we talked about the Pac-12, right? We've talked about the Big 12, but another stellar conference this year has been the Big 10, and we'll talk about a little bit more about Michigan and how they kind of come to get this 4 seed. So Michigan revolves around 4 potential XBA draft picks. Junior point guard Ray Nadir, senior shooting guard Ethan Boltz, sophomore shooting guard / small forward Henry Martin, and senior Dylan Fleck. So they run a very much like a pace and space type system. Because Dylan Fleck is a 6'10" forward, but with great playmaking ability. Very similar to like a Ben Simmons type of player. And Nadir, Boltz, and Martin are all snipers from the outside. So they kind of spread the floor. They let Fleck work. And Nadir, Boltz, and Martin, if any of you guys help, Fleck kicks it to them and they knock it down. So they're looking for a bounce back this year. I mean, of course, Andre Joyner led the Wolverines to the Sweet 16, where they lost to North Carolina. But this year, Michigan is hoping that 4 is truly their lucky number, as with their four potential draft picks and them being a number 4 seed this year. Michigan struggled a bit in non-conference play. The regular season, they didn't really stand out too much. I think their lack of size might have impacted them. They don't really have a true big man. But their cultivated dominance over a weaker Big Ten towards the bottom helped them kind of make it all the way to the Big Ten championship game against Michigan State. And then they ended up winning it. So despite having a iffy regular season, they were able to win the Big Ten title game, and they're going to come in to the tournament with a lot of momentum. And I think they're a very good team. But I do believe that their one fatal flaw is they do not have a dominant big man in a tournament that's full of them. So we'll see if that's going to end up costing them in the end. Well, who is the other team in this sport?
Well, it's the Billikens in St. Louis. And listen,
yes.
They don't have a big, but I mean, we've talked about a couple upsets, I think. What I'm about to tell you might be the biggest upset. You know, Vinny Red Jones, senior shooting guard, he was not on many XBA draft raiders. You know, he was, I feel like, unknown. He was kind of just in the team. But then he went wild in the A10 conference tournament. And let me tell you why this guy's kind of moved up as and just a guy, really, to everyone. He carried St. Louis to not only the conference championship game, but also a win against formerly number 3 Dayton Flyers. That was a huge upset which completely destroyed the bracketology. And everyone has called this the upset of the year. The question is, after securing this bid, can they do it? Can they pull off those upsets? Can they upset Michigan, who is a conference champion? Can they do it? And I think there's a chance. Vinny Red Jones is a great player. I'm excited to see if he performs in March, and if he does, you'll see him on an XBA team next year. With that done, folks, we move on to the next matchup, which will be... Okay, this is very interesting. Can you tell us about the Sun Devils?
Yes, so this is one of my favorite teams. ASU, they're loaded. They have 3 strong upperclassmen, and senior guard Damon King, junior Paxton Holmes, and senior forward Eli Hopner. I apologize if I pronounced that wrong. King is a prototypical 2-guard per se, but he's running the point for them this year, and he's done a decent job. Paxton Holmes is kind of that defensive player, almost reminiscent of a Robert Covington type of guy, and Eli Hopner is a kind of he's a small forward, but he kind of really focuses on passing and shooting. He kind of compares his game to Dirk Nowitzki, which I found very intriguing, of course, because on this team there's an emerging sophomore forward named Heinrich Nowitzki, who is actually the son of NBA Hall of Famer Dirk Nowitzki.
Future Hall. But he should be in the Hall of Fame already. I'll just
fair enough. Future Hall of Famer. I mean, he's a shoo-in. I automatically put him in. But yes, future Hall of Famer Dirk Nowitzki. His son is Heinrich, and this year has been a big year for Heinrich, as he's really, like I said, he's emerged this year, and I think that's kind of helped put Arizona State over the top, and how they've had to have a really good season. But they did end up losing in the Pac-12 tournament in the semifinals against UCLA, but they were able to beat Oregon State and Washington on the way to there. 2 very good teams themselves. So Arizona State is a good team. Again, another team that's kind of lacking a true big man, but again, they have 4 great players and then 3 upperclassmen. So they have a lot of experience, and they're going to be a good team. But they have a tough matchup for a 12 seed anyway. Can you tell us about Illinois?
Well, I can tell about Illinois. Man, last year, Final Four run, beat Malik Jones, beat all these great players, and they lost to the eventual champions, Syracuse and ASP, by I believe only 1 point. It was 67-66, something like that. They were led, of course, by Henry Portis and Mike Paxson, and they both shocked the world. But I think Illinois has shocked the world again by making the tournament. Earlier, I think in the first video, we were kind of surprised they were on the bubble. They are led by their dynamic, super sophomore wing duo of Jose Gray and Olasasha. They produce well, but there's been some injury issues with Illinois this year. They've been kind of hit a lot, and although these guys have kept them afloat, they haven't really put themselves in, I believe, an XBA draft situation. I do think, though, there's a chance they could surprise the world again, I think their conference run-in, though, and I've got to give you a spoiler, it's not very good. They lost to a lot of teams. They were really good out of non-conference. Injuries kind of hit. They were bad. And they lost against a good, but not really the best Ohio State side. Now with this, why I said it, I find this interesting, even though if it's not the most appealing matchup. We did not mention this earlier, but the committee, I don't think we mentioned this earlier, but the committee only takes 5 bubble teams. Illinois was the last bubble team. The very last bubble team. So that means, sadly, Stanford, BYU, UConn, Buffalo, and I believe Alabama did not make March Madness. We'll talk about that at the end of the video, but just a quick little reminder to all of you out there. With all of that being said, it's time to move on to the next one, which I believe, yep, it's the what do you call it, Neil? You said it first video.
What I said, this like the potential, the blowout game of the tournaments.
Wow. Okay. Well, obviously this is, I think, a couple people getting worried, not seeing Oklahoma on the list. But can you tell, why people should have not been worried, and why Oklahoma was a shoo-in to at least be a top 3 seed in this tournament, Nick?
Yeah, the Sooners. It was a matter of time. It was a matter of time before they were picked, because they were fantastic all season. They're a number 2 seed for a reason, and they have a terrific trio as well, led by seniors Amon Tucker, Mark Knott, and a freshman point guard phenom Kennedy Alvarez. Alvarez is the number 1 rated point guard in the nation, and his combination of sniper-like shooting, he is a shooter. He is definitely a shooter, and jump out of the gym athleticism has earned him plenty of slots already on SportsCenter's top 10 highlights. But is he truly ready to lead this Oklahoma team to the title? That we'll have to wait and see. Again, I said that this is a trio, and he's flanked by fellow point guard at 6'9", Amon Tucker, who ends up playing a lot off the ball due to sharing the floor with Alvarez, but is projected to be a point guard at the next level. And then as well as power forward Mark Knott, who is just a strong, sturdy, efficient player for them, a senior that they can rely on to get buckets down low. But again, they kind of go as Alvarez goes. And he's a freshman at the end of the day, and is he truly ready to lead this team to a title? They were fantastic throughout the regular season, going toe to toe with top teams like Kansas, even beating them once in the regular season. But they ended up losing in the conference title game at Allen Fieldhouse in Kansas, as Alvarez's game-winning jumper just missed. I'm sure Alvarez is motivated and looking for revenge, and he's kind of floating around that lottery spot in the XBA mock drafts right now. So a big tournament could be a game changer and maybe boost him into that top 10, top 5 range. But what about Navy?
Well, Navy's interesting. I think the committee has this right, but it was a big surprise this season that Navy basketball was good, and they're in the tournament. You don't hear that much, but let me tell you why. Center Robert Bolts, he had an absolute dominating season. He used his massive 7'1", 270-pound framework to bully his opponents outside. However, it should be noted that while Bolts manhandles smaller competition, it seems like he appears to struggle with players that are actually around his size. So what I talked about before with Bettis and all that in Baylor, he struggles with those type of players. Now, it would be interesting if Oklahoma could contain him. I think Knott is the only player really, tall enough, and the guy that can guard him. We'll see if Oklahoma can do that against him. But I've got to also talk about their conference performance, because obviously Navy's not getting an auto bid. They were in the Patriot League, and they had a decent in-conference, had a decent non-conference, nothing special. But they did beat Loyola Chicago in the Patriot League Conference Championship to, win an automatic bid in the XCAA tournament. Nothing really much to say. Then, if Bolts performs, there could be upset potential here. But he's the only player on that team, and he could struggle against a guy like Mark Knott. And yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, I think I mentioned this as the blowout game. So I do expect Oklahoma to win fairly easily. But I believe Bolts should be the biggest guy on the floor. So maybe he can use that size to his advantage to try to bully Knott in Oklahoma. But Knott, he's pretty good on his own right. I think he's about 6'10". So he'll give Bolts some problems. But let's say if Bolts goes crazy and goes off for 40, maybe we might see a crazy upset.
Yeah, and with that done, move on to our next matchup, which is number 7 versus number 10. Who's it gonna be? Okay. Well, obviously number 7 Auburn was kind of expected there. You know, that's where they usually place. But Yale's kind of interesting. Can you tell us about Auburn first, Neil?
So Auburn, another team that's led by a terrific trio. This time, this led by 3 seniors: Malik Bishop, a forward, and 2 7-footers, and C.J. Bender and Tellis Scalabrini. Earlier, I believe it was in the Midwest region when we were talking about Kansas, right? We mentioned Richard Scalabrini and talked about how he was the son of Brian Scalabrini. Well, this is Richard's older brother. Tellis is also, like I said, Brian Scalabrini's son, and he's actually 7'3". So while Richard's a guard, Tellis is definitely a big man, and he is 7'3". Bender is 7 foot, and Malik Bishop is a interestingly built player because he's only 6'3", but he's 240 pounds. So he's very much a load to handle on the wing. And so they're quite the combo, especially as Tellis. He's someone that kind of likes to bang inside, and while he does have a good mid-range jumper, he prefers to be around the basket. Bender works well off of him because he's more of like that Nikola Jokic type of player, wants to kind of play out more on the perimeter, shoot threes, play make for his teammates, and he's a fantastic passer. So they really do fit each other very, very well, and that's why that they were able to. Auburn was able to battle in such a tough SEC conference, and why they're so determined to make a deep run in the XCAA tournament, despite being upset by Alabama, one of the bubble teams that did not make it into the tournament in the first round of the SEC tournament right before this. So Auburn, again, I think they're very, very talented. They're a good team. However, they're coming off a loss. And they don't really have very, very strong guard play. Well, Bishop he can kind of play the two. Again, he's only 6'3". He's not a fantastic ball handler. That's not really his game per se. So we'll see if he can kind of handle that and really be that guy for them on the wings in the backcourt, because they're going to be fantastic up front.
Yeah,
what about Yale?
Well, it might be hard for Auburn to verse this team, especially after losing at Alabama. Let me talk about Yale. Yeah, Yale. Number 10 seed, the Yale Bulldogs. Let me tell you why. They have a three-headed monster. Yonder Twin, Otto Shakur, and Ian Solomon. Now, I'm going to go one by one, obviously. So first up, we got Yonder Twin. Let me tell you about Yonder Twin. He's a junior, and he's good. That's all I can say. He is good. He's reliable. He can do everything. He did really well in the Ivy League against teams like Harvard and Northeastern, the main rivals. He always was reliable. Never really was the star player for this team, I believe. But, I think he was pretty well in the Ivy League. Didn't really play up to the... Well, he actually did play up to his competition, should I say. A couple other guys on this team I'll talk about with, Otto and Ian. Talk about, why... couldn't have really done, but Yonder always showed up for big games. He always showed up every game. He was consistent, great player. Next up, Otto Shakur, which might be the power forward or the center of this team. We don't know yet, heading into a March Mayhem. But, Otto Shakur, same thing, more dominant and didn't perform in big games. That's all I got to say. Yeah, he did perform in the Ivy League. What about the non-conference? Didn't really perform there, sadly. But, Shakur, I'm not taking anything away from him. He is a beast, and so is Ian Salomon. Now, Ian Salomon, same kind of issue, but I mean, they're the kind of same player, Otto Shakur and Ian Salomon, and they were recruited in the same class. I feel like, Ian was recruited a bit lower than Otto. Obviously Otto was supposed to be the center of the team, and then Salomon was trying to, he was kind of, I believe he was a walk-on actually, and so he walked onto the school. And he's actually got offered a scholarship in his sophomore season. And ever since that, he's run away with his opportunity. And he's been like Otto Shakur. They're kind of the same player in a way. But yeah, that's really all I got to say about the players of Yale. But I got to talk about their journey. They won the Ivy League this year. And I believe they've earned the highest tournament seed in their school history. And... well, their journey is quite special, let me tell you this. Now, out of conference, they weren't the best they could have been, but you know they still played decently, still had over 500. But in conference is where it gets very special. Oh, well, what is very special? What could be very special in conference? They went undefeated. That's right, folks. Yale went undefeated. And in the tournament, of course, they were #1 seed in the Ivy League. They beat some great schools, and you know, in the final, obviously, very tough matchup against Northeastern. Eastern gave it their all, but I mean, Yale did it in the end. And with all that being said, this is their highest school. You know, this is their highest seed in March Mayhem history. With that done, move on to our next matchup. And okay, Oregon and Chico State.
Interesting.
Okay. I can talk about Chico. You talk about Oregon first, though.
Sure. Oregon again is a powerhouse. They're number 3 seed, and they're well deserving of it. As they are led by potential lottery pick Jacoby Bruce, who is a freshman point guard from them that's projected to go again like around that lottery 14-15 type of phase, late lottery pick. But he's flanked by 3 strong wing type of players. Michael, this is going to be a tough one. Preobrazhensky from Russia, actually, is projected to go around the late first. Quincy Welsh, another freshman wing that's about 6'9", very great player. I would say a player to watch. Is projected to go in the second round. And then Mike King, who is a sophomore point guard, kind of like an ASP light per se, where he's kind of like that kind of really good playmaking, attacking the basket, dunking, but not the greatest shooter in the whole world. But Oregon, they're great. Jacoby Bruce is fantastic, and he's led this team to a great season. They've had a strong resume with several quality wins throughout in a very difficult Pac-12. But they were unable to win the Pac-12, unfortunately losing in the conference title game to UCLA.
Well, interesting. I'm going to have to talk about the most interesting thing. I bet none of you have ever heard of Chico State. And that's fair. Because they're actually, well, last year they were a Division II basketball program. Let me tell you of a head coach that really pushed this move through. His name is Paris Anthony. Now, head coach Paris Anthony, he kind of controls the basketball program, and he kind of has some connections here and there with the NCAA. We don't know what happened, but what happened last year is they were promoted to Division I, and they could instantly go into a postseason. It seems like they've done it, and it seems like the committee has put them in, so I don't know what's going on here, but I'll talk about the players and maybe not focus on the dark sides of things. But let me talk about a point guard, Theo Dawkins. Now, Theo Dawkins, special. Very underrated, maybe the most underrated player, prospect, whatever you want to say about him. I've seen scouts in that say this kid, you know, doesn't have the athletic ability. He, you know, sometimes his consistency, you know, everything about him is wrong. He has the combination of the speed and some long-range shooting. They'll definitely have a fighting chance with this kid. I've met with him a couple times. I work, you know, obviously from Australia. I kind of work in a bit of the West Coast, sometimes the East, but more of the West Coast. I've seen this kid play. I've talked to him a bit, you know, and he's just a special kid. And, you know, even if they don't get through a very, very hard Oregon, let me tell you, don't sleep on this kid, Theo Dawkins. He's one day going to make the XBA.
I believe it. I've heard good things about the kid. I haven't got a chance to see him play live, but I've heard great things. And if you vouch for him, man, I mean, maybe they'll be able to give Oregon a run.
Definitely. But maybe we just move past them and their shady business. Yeah. As we finish today's episode with the last matchup, 6 versus 11, and it is okay. I feel like people might be mad. The committee chose this. Don't be mad at us. But can you talk about North Carolina and tell us why they're so low?
Well, North Carolina is one of my favorite schools, honestly. I grew up wanting to be a Tar Heel, per se. So even when I saw this ranking, at first I was a little taken aback because, North Carolina is one of the true blue bloods of college basketball. But it kind of makes sense because they did have to reload a bit after they lost E.J. Sanders to the XBA, and they made their Sweet 16 run last year. They were a very veteran-based team. And that's pretty typical with Roy Williams, right? He normally has a lot of seniors playing, not a lot of high first-round draft picks or like crazy highly recruited freshmen as teams like Duke or other teams may have. But North Carolina's legit. They do have some legit players. Guards Marquise Diamond and Raheem Akuzi handle things in the backcourt, and forwards Danny Gold and Sejon Walker do much of the heavy lifting in the front court. As of right now, I believe Sejon Walker is the only one truly projected to be drafted in the upcoming XBA draft. He's looking at a late second-round pick. However, Diamond, Akuzi, and Gold, they all pull their own weight. They're fantastic college players, and maybe with a strong tournament run, they can kind of put their own names on the back and can help UNC return back to their traditional powerhouse ways. And I'm sure Roy Williams would love to see that come true. But what's going on with Missouri?
Missouri is, well, obviously last year they were pretty. I think everyone liked Missouri last year. Let me tell you why. Maybe you should like them this year as well. They are led by sophomore small forward Jacob Dixon. Now Dixon, very good, very good player. that's really all I can say about him. He's just an all-around beast. Rebound, points, assists. He's got everything. Now I'm not saying he is XBA draft worthy. He's an all-around player. He's not good at one thing, and to be honest, there's some better all-around players than him. But if you're going to talk about the all-around player, it's Jacob Dixon. But Miles Parker, I think, senior point guard Miles Parker, I think is special. He's 6'7" and he's a point guard. He's got passing. He could shoot a bit. I mean, it was Trevor Farrell, I believe, last year, who was a guard. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're looking at maybe the next Penny Hardaway here. I know I've kind of dropped that bombshell, but man, I love me some Miles Parker. He's so good to watch on the highlight reel. And even though Missouri, they were decent in a very tough SEC this year, that might not be enough to get in the tournament. They're very strong wins in the early year. That was enough to earn them a at-large bid, which obviously they got here.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I really like Miles Parker as well. I feel like anytime you can have a point guard with that type of size and ability to really play the position that well is always awesome. And he'll definitely cause some matchup problems for North Carolina, to be sure.
And with that, folks, it's time to show you the bracket, the full, the right side of the bracket, the East region. Here it is. Obviously, I can't wait to see all these matchups. With that being said, I think it's time to make our predictions. Neil, who do you got first?
This is such a tough bracket to me. This is a tough region I will say, I don't believe a true team stands out. Honestly, I think there's a lot of fantastic teams throughout. Man, this is difficult. I'm really looking through the bracket right now. And I want to say that I'm going to actually pick Oregon to upset Tennessee in the Elite Eight and end up winning this year. I do think that Tennessee might be the best team. However, I think that they're going to have some tough matchups running into wherever they play between Washington and Baylor, then potentially Michigan or St. Louis. I think that one of those teams might trip them up on the way to or at least tire them out on the way to the Elite Eight. And I think if Oregon is able to get past Oklahoma, then I believe that they'll be able to come out of the East region. But what about you, Porter? Who are you thinking?
Well, if Goldie complied a bit earlier, I have Tennessee as my current profile picture. But you know, I'm a volunteer. To all my volunteer fans out there, I've kind of jumped on the bandwagon. But Wayne Cartwright's my dude. You know, just I don't know what to say, because you know, how should I say this? Put Tennessee the state up there. Put Tennessee the state up above Tennessee, and just America. Put America up above my PFP. And yeah, that is my pick. Tennessee is America. That's who I'm going with. Tennessee.
Boy, you're wild, man. So would you say that Wayne Cartwright is the player to watch of the East region for sure?
He's the player to watch in the entire tournament. Doesn't matter if he doesn't produce a lot. I mean, Tennessee's going to win, but let me tell you, when you see those dunks, guys, you're just going to be zapped into an alternate reality.
Wow, that is some high praise right there. I also want to add in and just also keep an eye out again for some stud freshman point guards in Kennedy Alvarez and Jacoby Bruce, and then of course we got to keep an eye out for Dirk's son, right? Of Heinrich Nowitzki. So this is going to be a fantastic region. I think this might be the most competitive of them all. So we'll see what happens.
Yep, and with that, folks, well, we are done with the East region. What should I say? Well, obviously, get rid of my Tennessee profile picture now, and because I'm an Amarillo fan as well, and I don't want to keep this for the whole rest of the series. Okay, one more video, but well, tomorrow we'll obviously show you the West region, and we will show you who we have as our national champions. Yep, both me and Neil will predict our national champions, and we'll see if we get it right or wrong. With that, one more thing. Tomorrow I'll also, at the end of the video, I'll also be revealing how I got onto the channel. It's a personal story, and I think it's a great story to tell. So just stay tuned for that. Any last words, Neil? That's all I got to really say. I said thank you to everyone in the previous 2 videos.
Really quick, again, I just want to reach out to all the fans and all the potential prospects out there that are watching these Selection Sunday. You're seeing your prospect getting picked and the names getting shown and everything. I would say do your due diligence in the sense of try to advocate for yourself, gain support. It really does matter when it comes to draft selections. It's going to be a very competitive field to see who's going to get drafted this year. So I would say do whatever you can to get your name out there, whatever it takes. I know some people have used social media. I know certain people are just always very active in chats. I believe that's how Damian Dillard was able to jump up so high from Yale. So just again, if you see your prospects get mentioned in these videos, I would say it's definitely time to start getting as many supporters as you can. That could be the difference in you being the number 5 pick in the draft and number 55. So definitely, if you're interested in that, take the time to really build your backstory and build up your legacy going into this. But regardless, even if you don't do anything, the XCAA will show who the standout players are in the country and who's ready for the XBA at the next level. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Yes, Cartwright is definitely going to be one of them. But after him, we'll see what's going to really happen.
Alright.
Yeah.
Alrighty, folks. Well, that's it for today's video. Got one more of this, one more of hearing our beautiful voices, me and Neil. With that, I would like to just say from the GG9 network, have a great day and peace out.
Peace.
Well, that is going to be it for tonight's Eastern Region reveal, guys. We have one more region to go. It will be the West region tomorrow night. So stay tuned right here. Leave a like if you like this thing. And guys, keep in mind also, we will be running a bracket challenge, and we're going to start it in round number 2. So you guys will be able to check out round 1 action. We're going to show every single game, but it's going to be all highlight reel action. I can't show you every single game, guys. It would get crazy with the notifications. It'd get crazy with the amount of time to get all these games uploaded to YouTube. So we're going to be running it in Sports Center style of highlight reel. So most of these games are going to be about 2 minutes, maybe even a minute long. I'm going to try to do as many quick cuts as I possibly can to get every single round 1 matchup game in one video. If I can't do it, if it's just not possible, we'll just run it by region. So we'll do round 1 Eastern region, round 1 South region, round 1 West region, you guys get it, so on and so forth. And then by round 2, when round 2 happens, we can just do round 2 in a whole entire video, and then we'll do Elite 8, Sweet 16, we'll do all of that in one video each and every single time. So guys, that's kind of just the format there, but we will be doing a bracket challenge. There will be one grand prize winner, and I know it kind of sucks that we're not going to be, you know, having more than one winner as we normally do with the Pick'em contest, but I feel like one grand prize winner for March Mayhem bracket challenge on the channel, it's going to be well worth it. I'm going to have to dish out a little hefty penny here to purchase this prize that I want to give that grand prize winner. So I know it's going to be something special, and of course you're going to get a prospect for year number 3 as well. But there's one grand prize winner, and it's imperative. It's imperative that you take these guys at their word, at their advice. They've seen these teams, they've seen these players play off screen. They've done some scouting, they've done some analysis. Got to trust their thought process here. Do your own research too after you've seen round 1 action. I know it's going to be quick highlights, but you guys will get a good idea of who does what players to watch out for, what teams are kind of surprising everybody, and I'll do a good job of editing so you guys kind of get the feel of each and every player and what they're capable of going into round 2. Obviously, I've recorded well far in advance. I already know what's pretty much going to happen, guys, but I'm not giving it away. No hints other than bracket challenge. Make sure you guys are studying up to compete for that grand prize. Guys, leave a like if you like this thing. I will see you tomorrow to cap it off with Portugal and Khaneal Mason. We're going to cap it off, the entire thing, the whole March Mayhem brackets. The whole brackets will be revealed in the Western region. And then from there, it's time. It's time to get March Mayhem underway. Guys, I'll see you in the next one. As always, peace.